All right, welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Colleen Baughan. Colleen is a nutrition coach that we love working with, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, where we should get the majority of our nutrients and vitamins and minerals and all that from the food we eat.
Yep.
But the reality is it's tough to do. So colds, flu, coronavirus, the cytokine storm that can take over our bodies when we get exposed to viruses and bacteria and all that. Is vitamin C good enough to be the only thing we do to stave it?
So vitamin C is super popular. You see it in like Emergency and Airborne and all those little supplements you pick up at the drugstore when you're not feeling well. And vitamin C is great because it really starts off our whole immune process, and that's good. But when we're talking about sort of going into this flu season and this cold season and knowing we've got coronavirus, there are some other areas we want to make sure that we're covering our bases on. And so the first of those would be vitamin D. And vitamin D is an important vitamin that actually more acts like a hormone in your body. And unfortunately, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere or for those that have darker skin, there's a really good chance you're deficient. Mm-hmm. And we know that those individuals who are deficient in D have more challenges when it comes to coronavirus specifically, and viruses in general, because vitamin D is super important for your immune system. So that is an area I would strongly recommend that you have either tested or consider, adding another 15, 20 minutes a day. Get outside with your arms exposed, your legs exposed as much as possible to get that natural vitamin D production that we get from the sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge too is that we're told that the sunshine is causing skin cancer, so therefore everybody's lubing up with 30 and 50, so that it can, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, but the reality is no exposure without sunblock on, and again, Northern Hemisphere, we need D.
We do.
So sure. I can say, I'm not a doctor, so this is just this dude's opinion. But for me, have found that I take 40,000 IUs of vitamin D every week. It's a fat-soluble vitamin, so I can load that in on one day if I choose to. And then during these months where I'm outside running often and I'm getting a lot of sunlight, I cut that back to 20,000 IUs.
Yep.
I add into that, what do you think about magnesium and then K2 and their importance with vitamin D going to the right spot?
Yes, that's super helpful to have the magnesium and K2, because then that helps the vitamin D go to the bones, help rebuild those structures, and actually make sure it's being used correctly. You mentioned it's a fat-soluble vitamin, which means that we want to make sure that it's being paired correctly, so that it goes to the right spots and isn't going to accumulate in the wrong areas.
Right. Colleen, anything else other than K2, D3, and magnesium is kind of some foundational things that we need to have in our diets?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about, again, getting back to specifically coronavirus, zinc is going to be a big player for your immune system overall. So we know that zinc is actually being studied as a potential mediator of the virus itself. So that's been really exciting research to follow. And so you definitely want to make sure you're getting zinc in your diet and that you are sufficient. Again, that's another area where a lot of Americans are insufficient. And so if you're not eating things like oysters and red meat, you're probably going to want to consider looking at a supplement and getting your levels checked.
Yeah.
And then,
I was just going to say, and what about iron in that whole thing, which is probably where you're going next?
Yep, iron, exactly. And so also unique to coronavirus, we know that those who are iron deficient also have worse outcomes. And the concerning thing is that for women, between 9 and 12% of the US population of women is deficient in iron. And then if we look at women of darker skin tones, so Black and Mexican American women, we find that they actually have up to 20% of their population is actually deficient. And so that's super concerning, because if you're deficient in iron, the outcomes that we're seeing with coronavirus are also much worse. And so we want to make sure iron stores are strong and that your body has what it needs. Iron is really important for your red blood cells, which carry oxygen. And so with coronavirus, we know that people have issues with oxygenation of their tissues. And so we want to make sure those red blood cells are super robust. And again, that's going to come from primarily animal-based products. So if you're plant-based, it's definitely an area you're going to want to consider.
Yeah, you have to put a lot of thought into getting all those nutrients and amino acids from a plant-based diet. It's
Absolutely.
possible, but it's a challenge.
For sure.
And also, I think what we're emphasizing here, again, with kind of a theme of you are the expert of you, there's all this chaos going on. There's a lot of unknowns pertaining to coronavirus and COVID and all of these things. But I firmly believe that the theme that I'm running with is that what can I do for myself to make my immune system so robust that if and when I get this, I get it, build up some immunity to it. Our bodies react in a robust way and go, oh, I'm going to put some, a little group of army men in here to fight this thing, and you survive it. And we move on.
And honestly, one of the biggest things I try and tell clients is the best way out of fear is through action. And so what actions are you taking to help yourself get out of this anxiety that it's so easy to get caught in? And so, as you were just saying, making sure that your diet is robust is only going to help your immune system be more robust. We can do what we can to keep our faces covered and wash our hands, but adding what we add on our plate is really, really important too.
Yeah, it's all of the above.
Yep.
And if you're just covering your face and washing your hands, but you're eating fast food all day long, don't bother washing your face. No, I'm not. I'm
Your
kidding.
little army guys don't have what they need.
Army guys, all right.
Your army guys.
That's awesome. Great
Thanks.
topic.